The Zefkari had conquered 17 civilizations before they encountered humanity. Their method was always the same: deploy the nightmare beasts, ancient psychic parasites that fed on terror and sanity, breaking minds until entire populations surrendered rather than face another night of horrors. It had worked flawlessly across the galaxy, until they met Dr. Sarah Chen aboard the research vessel Prometheus. The first wave hit the ship during the night cycle. Crew members threw out. The vessel began screaming, their minds assaulted by manifestations of their deepest fears. Captain Morrison found himself reliving the death of his daughter in an endless loop. Engineer Patel watched his homeworld burn again and again. One by one, the crew succumbed to catatonic states as their sanity shattered like glass. But in Laboratory 7, Dr. Chen continued her work, seemingly oblivious to the chaos around her. The nightmare beast assigned to her was ancient even by its species standards. It had broken the minds of warrior philosophers, hive-mind queens, and transcendent energy beings. As it slithered into her dreams, it prepared to feast on what it assumed would be another delicious cocktail of terror and despair. Instead, it found something unprecedented. The beast materialized Chen's greatest fear: the failure of her research, the death of her patients, the collapse of everything she'd worked for. But as the nightmare unfolded, Chen simply observed it with clinical detachment. "Interesting," she murmured in her sleep. Classic manifestation of imposter syndrome combined with survivor's guilt. The neural pathways are fascinating. The nightmare beast paused, confused. Where was the terror, the screaming, the delicious psychic energy it craved? It tried again, conjuring images of Chen's childhood trauma, the accident that had claimed her sister. But Chen's dreaming mind simply noted, unresolved grief presenting as recursive memory loops. I should really finish that therapy session with Dr. Williams. Growing frustrated, the beast delved deeper, pulling forth primal human fears. Darkness, death, the unknown. Chen's response was to catalog each terror with academic interest. Thanatophobia, she observed as visions of her own death played out. Though statistically I'm more likely to die from cardiovascular disease than the dramatic scenarios you're presenting. The probability matrices are all wrong. The nightmare beast recoiled. This human was supposed to be broken by now, yet she treated its most potent attacks like a research project. It tried one final gambit, manifesting every fear simultaneously, a cacophony of terror that had reduced gods to gibbering madness. Chen sat up in her bed aboard the ship, but not in fear. Her eyes were bright with curiosity. "You're not from our dimension, are you?" she said aloud, addressing the invisible entity. "The quantum signatures are all off, and the way you're accessing memory engrams suggests a parasitic relationship with neural tissue. How do you maintain coherence across dimensional barriers?" For the first time in millennia, the nightmare beast experienced something it had never felt before: confusion bordering on panic. This human wasn't afraid, she was studying it. "The energy expenditure must be enormous," Chen continued, pulling out her tablet and making notes. "You're probably evolved from a species that originally fed on psychic energy in your home dimension. But fear is such an inefficient food source, so much metabolic waste. Have you considered that human creativity might be more nutritious?" The beast tried to retreat into the space between thoughts, but Chen was relentless. "Wait, don't go!" The therapeutic applications alone could revolutionize treatment for PTSD. We could work together. I help you develop a sustainable feeding mechanism that doesn't require breaking minds, and you help me understand consciousness itself. Think of the scientific breakthroughs. The nightmare beast fled. It burst from Chen's mind like a panicked animal, racing through dimensional barriers with a desperation born of pure, existential terror. For the first time in its ancient existence, it had encountered something more frightening than any nightmare it could conjure: a human who wanted to understand it. Across the galaxy, the Zefkari felt their ultimate weapons retreat. The psychic scream that echoed through their collective consciousness was unmistakable. Their nightmare beast was afraid. On the Prometheus, Chen was already drafting research proposals. By morning, the rest of the crew had recovered from their psychic assault, though they remained traumatized. Chen, meanwhile, had filled 3 notebooks with observations and was requesting permission to set up a xenopsychology laboratory. "You want to do what?" Captain Morrison asked, still pale from his ordeal. "Study them," Chen replied matter-of-factly. "They're clearly an advanced form of consciousness operating outside normal space-time parameters. The implications for quantum consciousness theory alone." "Dr. Chen," Morrison interrupted, "these things nearly drove us insane." "Yes, but imagine what we could learn, and think about it practically. If we can understand how they work, we can develop defenses, maybe even turn them into allies. Fear is just poorly understood neurotransmitter activity when you get down to it." The Zefkari, monitoring from their distant fleet, made an unprecedented decision. For the first time in their expansion across the galaxy, they chose to retreat rather than face an enemy. Their War Council's conclusion was unanimous. Any species that could produce individuals who treated existential terror as a research opportunity was too dangerous to engage. Dr. Sarah Chen never learned that her scientific curiosity had single-handedly ended an interstellar invasion. She was too busy writing grant proposals for her new field of interdimensional parasitic psychology and wondering if other nightmare entities might be willing to participate in controlled studies. The nightmare beast, meanwhile, took up residence in an uninhabited corner of the universe, where it spent its time developing anxiety disorders and jumping at shadows, afraid that somewhere out there, a human scientist with a clipboard might be looking for it. Some terrors, it learned, were worse than nightmares.